The old lady searched. The sun dipped low and shadows grew long. Her heart ached for tiny meows. Mrs. Willow, known for her kindness, had lost her tiny kitten, Mittens. He'd slipped out while she watered her geraniums, a flash of gray fur gone in an instant. Now, the last rays of the sun painted the sky in hues of orange and purple as Mrs. Willow called out, "Mittens! Oh, Mittens, where have you gone?" Her voice cracked with worry. Neighbors joined the search, their faces etched with concern. But Mittens was gone. Despair began to set in. Mrs. Willow sank onto her porch swing, tears welling up. Suddenly a chirp startled her. A sparrow perched on the armrest, its head cocked. "Lost something, ma'am?" it chirped. Mrs. Willow blinked. The sparrow spoke again. "Don't worry, I know where to find him." Mrs. Willow gasped. A talking sparrow. Was she dreaming? The sparrow hopped twice. "Follow me," it chirped, taking flight. She stood, bewildered, but a flicker of hope ignited in her heart. Could this little bird truly understand her? Hesitantly at first, she followed the sparrow's flight path. It flitted from fence post to lamp post, leading her on a winding path through the neighborhood. They reached a park. The sparrow perched on a bench, watching her expectantly. Mrs. Willow scanned the area, then she heard it, a faint meow. It came from beneath a bush. There, huddled and scared, was Mittens. He looked up at her with wide, frightened eyes. "Mittens, my dear." Mrs. Willow scooped him up, relief flooding through her. She looked back to thank the sparrow, but it was gone. Had she imagined the whole thing? No. The memory of the sparrow's chirp, so clear, so insistent, lingered in the air. Maybe, just maybe, magic existed in the most unexpected places. As she carried Mittens home, she couldn't help but smile. The world, she realized, was full of surprises. And sometimes, help came from the most unexpected of friends. Mrs. Willow never forgot the talking sparrow. She continued to leave out breadcrumbs for the birds, her heart filled with gratitude for their kindness. As Mrs. Willow sipped her tea, a sudden flash of light filled the room. She blinked, and there, standing in her living room, was a tiny alien with a mischievous grin. "Greetings, Earthling!" it squeaked. "I've come for your cat!" Mittens, unfazed, meowed and jumped into the alien's arms. Mrs. Willow could only laugh. "Well, I guess it's time for an intergalactic adventure," she said, grabbing her coat. With a nod, the alien held out a shimmering crystal. In an instant, the room transformed into a swirling vortex of colors and stars. They were no longer in Mrs. Willow's cozy home but aboard a sleek, futuristic spaceship. The alien, still holding Mittens, pointed to a large window. "Look," it said, "that's the Andromeda Galaxy. We're going to have a perfectly stellar time." Mrs. Willow gazed out in awe, the vast expanse of space filled with twinkling stars and unknown wonders. She felt a thrill of excitement and a sense of peace.